Judge Verdun. Now, when I became a judge, many things changed. For one thing, I seemed to get funnier. Now, this is a transposition that I've never fully understood. I mean, there were times when I seemed to be hilarious. After so many years of being but mildly humorous, I thought, how does that happen? As Cindy mentioned, I was worried. I drank the Kool-Aid as a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer. I was one of you. And so many times I think, like that great line in The Big Chill, that when I was with you people, I was at my best. And I was quite perturbed as to whether or not I'd be able to be a good judge. And I found that it was indeed fun to be fair and a little easier to be fair. Sometimes it was pretty hard to know what your position had to be and then to stake it out and try and do it persuasively. So that hasn't been difficult. The professional luck continued, largely because I have been able to spend now 38 years in the company of trial lawyers. I say this to people, and sometimes they look askance. You like lawyers? You like trial lawyers? Trial lawyers are enormously great company. I think if you couldn't spend your professional career with Mickey and Yogi, or Frank, Sammy, and Dean, trial lawyers is the place to be. And I didn't get the other two, so I was happy with the third choice. Trial lawyers tell the best stories, even when appropriately discounted for not being under oath, you know. As a judge, I've tried to use humor, not so much because it's the right thing to do or because it's so natural, but it eases the tension. I vowed when I became a judge that I would never be the kind of judge who is a problem for the lawyers. I want a judge who loses a case or who feels poorly about how he performed. To not list the judge is one of the difficulties. And we've all had the experience, I guess, although I think it is rare. I don't know of a single judge that I could think of right now, maybe I'm just puffing, but I really honestly don't think so, who I think is a problem for the lawyers. But there was a time in my early practice when lots of judges were lawyers. I remember a judge so tough in Florida that, what was his name? I think it was Frank Robinson, oddly enough. He was so tough, and these were so many courageous, gutsy lawyers. He said, "Do I detect a prejudgment in your honors having raised his eyebrows?" I mean, you had to fight for every single word. And I didn't want ever to burden a lawyer in that way. I've tried to compliment lawyers, even for the shortest appearance, tell them they did a good job. I guess I've been influenced a lot by law and like to have a Socratic dialogue. I like to extend the arguments because once in a while, that loophole will come when you can see through it, and what that may mean is a ruling from the bench. Because in many of the heavier city dockets, the writing burden is enormous, and if you can get it right orally, it's easier to do that. I've tried to make the charges very conversational. They're not exactly composed anew each time, but I have even dared a couple of times. I saw Judge Chiaffi do this once, and he got away with it, so I've begun to do it and gotten away with it too. I ask them if they have any questions. No poor juror has ever dared to ask a question. Now, I like to think that maybe part of that is that they're understanding it as well. And sometimes I will call a young lawyer in for a post-mortem to tell him what I thought he did well and poorly. I saw a young man, I wish he were here tonight, and I don't remember his name. He was from Hartford. I thought it was his first trial. He did almost everything wrong you could imagine to do in a case. And he stumbled. I thought almost, had it been a more skilled practitioner, I might have thought he was aw-shucksing it in order to garner jury sympathy. And final argument day came, and he had learned so much about his case through stumbling around in it, that his final argument was a masterpiece. Every sentence parsed into a perfect paragraph and into a perfect page. He did it without notes, and some of us know people who impress juries that way here, not to mention any names like Golub or somebody like that. And he got a wonderful verdict, and I called him back and I said, "I don't know if you were comfortable. How many cases have you tried?" He said, "This is my third one." I said, "It was a masterpiece." And it really was. And one of the pleasures in getting to hang with trial lawyers is you witness the most astounding range of performances. It's truly a joy. Sometimes when the matter is boring, the interaction of the personalities is very fascinating. And as a lawyer, you don't always get to do that, just as I know very little about how the other judges conduct themselves because you're not in their courtrooms. Most of you lawyers don't know how, on the plaintiff's side, the other lawyers really try a case. I always recommend to young lawyers to get into the courtroom to watch other lawyers doing their side of the bar because there's so much to be seen. Whereas as a judge, I get to see all of you so many times, or many of you. In the lawyer's daily life, I get to witness nobility. I don't say that wryly. I don't say that falsely or to puff you. So many things lawyers do are absolutely noble and at great sacrifice to themselves. And they do it with generosity and zeal and humor. And I see this on both sides of the cases. You all know that on the other side of the bar, you've run into the most wonderfully civilized behavior. Understanding their role is at least to make you prove your case. We all know we couldn't just let you all run totally wild. There needs to be some safety valve, and often good defense counsel represent that for us. I've also been impressed. I think I felt a little bit full of myself when I became a judge because of having been a certain kind of lawyer. And I've been pretty much astounded at the skill level I see. Routinely, kids I haven't known the name of showing up at short calendars, sometimes because I know they're a low person on the totem pole. And their articulation is most impressive. Their preparation isn't always so. Sometimes they don't know that I'm going to give them an argument.